Welcome to day number 3 of the Love and Empowerment Summit. My name is Andrea Miller. I am the producer of this extraordinary event and one of its hosts. Before I tell you what's coming up today, I want to say something to a specific group of you, the ones who have done so much of the work already. You've read all the books, gone to talk therapy, done a bunch of workshops, you know, the basic theories and attachment styles. None of that is new to you. You might even know exactly what your pattern is, but you can't seem to break out of it. If that's you, I want you to hear something directly. Nothing is wrong with you. You've been given all of the information, yes, or you've sought it out yourself, but what you haven't been given is a method that addresses where the patterns and what's keeping you stuck actually live. And it's not in your head, it's in your body and in your belief system. The subconscious part of your mind that was programmed long ago that you can't reach through thinking. This is the part of your brain and nervous system that really run the show. What we're doing together every day during the real-time Heartset activation and integration sessions is tapping into your nervous system and your belief system to anchor in real lasting change. As I love to say, you can't think your way there. And that's probably been your greatest obstacle. But I am here to help you change that. I have developed a set of powerful teachings that form the foundation of Heartset Live, my 6-week program that picks up where this summit ends. And I would love to give you a taste of it today at noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. It's the real-time Heartset activation session where you stop accumulating information and start anchoring it into your body and your mind. You don't have to wait for the right moment to put what you are learning into practice. We're going to do it together today. I will take you through a live exercise that is going to feel so good. Truly, I promise. And it will help you make the most out of this extraordinary summit. Now, if you're someone who knows a lot and has really done a lot and still feels stuck, this is extra built for you. Don't miss it. Really, don't miss it. Now, here's our lineup today. My very close friends, Dr. Harville Hendrix and Dr. Helen LaKelly Hunt, open it up. These are the creators of Imago Therapy, and they have been transforming relationships for decades. Their session is focused on having difficult relationships at work more effectively and productively, but their technique works in all relationships. Then there's Marianne Williamson, another one of my faves, who'll be diving into accountability, acceptance, and the essential spiritual tools that are so practical and actionable and inspiring. Then there's Annie Lala, who is going to be getting into something we can all use, the art of fighting, how conflict, when done right, can actually help enhance the love you desire and get closer to all of those you care about most. And finally, we have Jason Prawl on what the world's longest living people have in common. No, it's not diet. It's not even exercise. Can you guess what it is? Oh, he is so good and so wise and so entertaining. Please don't miss any of these entertaining, energizing, and highly insightful conversations. And truly, if you're ready to quit feeling stuck, frustrated, lonely, depleted, stressed, even hurt or angry far too often, I urge you to invest in yourself by scoring the VIP All Access Pass. Do it now. You will get lifetime access to all of these 40 plus riveting sessions from these truly extraordinary global thought leaders. Plus, you'll get the audio files, the transcripts, and a whole thing of bonus materials that we've prepared for you so that you can consume all of this at your own pace, anytime, anywhere you want, in a way that suits you best forever. This is a teeny financial investment for a giant payoff in the most important relationships of your life, crucially, including the one you have with yourself. The link is below. And Heartset Live, 6 weeks with me, starting June 3rd, is also right there waiting for you. Guys, it's going to be effective and it's going to be fun and it's going to feel great. Who said transformation can only be heavy and serious? We'll do the real work and we'll laugh and we'll move. And we'll finally let your truth emerge by tapping into something beautiful and brilliant in you that's been waiting to be seen and felt for a very long time. I want you there. Say yes to yourself by enrolling now. Let's go. Here's Harville and Helen. Enjoy the session. Thanks so much for tuning in to this extraordinary summit.
Welcome to the Your Tango Relationship Fitness Summit. I am so excited to welcome our viewers back to join me in talking to Dr. Harville Hendrix and Dr. Helen LaKelly Hunt. They are the authors of the iconic book, Getting the Love You Want, among so many others. They also created the Imago Relationship Therapy dialogue model that helps couples dialogue better to increase their connection and their understanding. They've been doing this work since 1980, and they have so much to share with us. What's really exciting today is they have a new book called How to Talk with Anyone About Anything, and it expands this dialogue process to the workplace, to professional settings, to extended families, to everybody, as they say, to anyone. And that leads us perfectly into our topic today, which is workplace relationships. What we really want to figure out today with Harville and Helen is how to create emotional safety in the workplace. So welcome, Harville and Helen. We are so excited to have you both.
Thank you, Joanna.
And we're longtime fans over here at Your Tango. Harville and Helen have been working with us for as long as we've been around, basically coming up on 20 years. And we always learn so much. Today, we are really talking about something I don't think people think about enough, which is how to create healthy connections in the workplace. Now, we're not saying that everybody at work needs to be BFFs. We're not saying that you need to treat your boss like they're your little sister or your mom or your dad. But we are saying that we believe that healthy and more functional workplace relationships are possible. So let me ask you guys a question. Imago feels to me like a very intimate dialogue tool. I'm wondering, how do we extend that out to the workplace without making things feel maybe too intimate?
Okay. Well, thank you. That's a good question. Sean, try that?
Start.
Why don't you start?
It's a simple thing that the value system of the culture teaches us to be the best when we're growing up in high school. Get good grades, and then you can get into a college, make good grades, you get a degree, you get your own home. But people don't realize that's the way people talk. I've studied this. I know what I'm saying is monologue, which is good for getting in many cases. But if you want a good relationship, it's important to learn the process of dialogue, which is taking turns talking and listening, so both people feel seen and heard. And dialogue is good in businesses, and helping people, other people on the staff feel appreciated.
Yeah. And what I'd like to add to that is that we developed dialogue starting in the 1980s for couples and with couples and in the setting of couples therapy. And after about 10 years ago, I think it was about 10 years ago, we became aware that, I don't know why we weren't aware earlier than that dialogue is not just a therapeutic process, that dialogue is a new way to talk. And as Helen said, it's a new way to talk that replaces the old way to talk, or at least complements the old way to talk, called monologue. And monologue is how people have talked for ever since we've been talking. But a dialogue is a new way to talk that has just shown up on the human scene. And so we noticed that couples like to, when they got clear about dialogue, they would take it to their children. And every now and then somebody would try it out with a friend, or a person would say, I did it in the workplace. So they pricked our curiosity about this. This means that you don't have to have an intimate relationship or use dialogue to create an intimate relationship or a better one. Dialogue is a new way to talk. And that's what people responded to, was that when I'm aware that when I'm listening or when I'm listened to. So we come to the idea that we could take dialogue And I think the phrase is from the clinic to the culture. And we decided to do that about 10 years ago. And we rebranded Imago Dialogue, which is the therapy form of it, into Safe Conversations Dialogue, which we teach in the non-intimate world. And one of the places that we focus on now with some deliberation is corporations. And we're also working with a youth organization, a global youth organization that's run by Pope Francis, or was founded by Pope Francis. And we've done it in schools.
Scholas.
Scholas.
Oh, so it's a nonprofit organization.
It's in nonprofit organizations as well as in in any non-intimate ecosystem. It works just as well. It's just the concerns in a non-intimate ecosystem, like a marriage, the concerns in a business or classroom and so forth. The content is different, but the process of talking and listening rather than just talking, what we call parallel talking, parallel monologue, but to dialogue makes the conversation between equals, whereas usually I talk, you talk, I talk, you talk is a kind of competition about who's going to get heard, who's saying the right thing. Or you wipe all that out, because the thing that has been missing, I think this is it's a dogmatic thing to say, but I've done research on it, so I'm kind of confident. The thing that's been missing in the human race forever, all in the past, has been listening. Listening is a new focus. It's a new skill, and it's very hard to teach people to really, really listen without judgment.
Well, that's one reason why I've always loved Imago. And as I wrote in my book, which is called Talk to Your Boys, there's a little phrase that Harville taught me that when I was interviewing him for the book, and it is, let me be sure I get it.
Yeah.
And that is my active way of making sure when I'm talking to my boys, and now I do try and use it at work, is I'm hearing them. I don't have to set up that formal back and forth to just say, let me make sure I get it. You're feeling overwhelmed because algebra is XYZ, and you're frustrated because the dishes are ABC, and you are wondering if you can miss school today. Am I getting it? And that feels like it can help in so many intimate situations, but I'm hearing you in how we can bring that to work. I wonder if work is a more challenging situation for us with dialogue because of all of the hierarchy, as in we kind of feel like we have to go along with what is being said.
Yeah.
And maybe it would feel awkward to say, I'm not following you. I'm not getting it.
Yes.
And that leads me to my next question.
Yeah.
Which is it possible for bosses and employees to set up this type of dialogue in an informal way? And what do you think that would look like? Like, just a few examples. I said, let me be sure I get it. Are there other phrases that can be helpful without following a very traditional structure?
Well, yes. And let me just say that we are now into corporations, and that we go into a corporation and we teach the whole dialogue process, mirroring, validating, and empathizing to the top leadership. Because if you don't go in the corporation, unfortunately, the monologue, the verticality is in all corporations, and that monologue is what most corporations do, which is what most human beings do. But we go in there and we teach the whole system to them, and then say to them, we have to teach it in a formal way, in a kind of classroom setting, so you get it and practice it and integrate it. But then that's so you can make it a part of your daily conversations with employees, with your boss. In a meeting, you can use it informally, like at the water cooler. If somebody says something to you, you can say what you said to your son. Hey, let me see if I'm getting that. And you have to learn how to do it, so that people don't know you've been to a class. Like, well, let me, and do
Let me check my notes here and follow what Harville and Helen say. Yes, no, we don't want to do that.
And could I add?
Sure.
So first, we're teaching the whole team from the boss down. Like they all are learning it together. Well, we created a Connecting at Work program that has visuals. Our CEO created it. But basically, to have a profitable company, it's better assured if the relationships between all the staff are more comfortable.
Yeah.
And because so many people, CEOs, come to work and another person has resigned, So here's two examples of what we teach people. Say a staff person has functioned in a very visible way to a few or lots of the other staff. And a person who saw what this first person did, they didn't like it. And what we teach that person, rather than stuffing it inside or saying, "Oh, I really don't like what you're saying," that's what people do. What we teach that person to do is make an appointment. So-and-so, a lot of what you said was really, really good. Could I have an appointment with you and ask you about one thing that I wasn't sure why you did it that way? Then make it at a time when the other person, they go into a room, they can quietly, and then they have a conversation that could be helpful to both of them.
Yeah.
It's a respectful.
So it sounds like first of all, it sounds like you're saying this has to start at the top, as in I can do what I can as an employee on my own, and it might be helpful for me to use some of these phrases. But if my boss or the people who work with me, if they start there, then they're creating, dare I say, a degree of emotional safety.
Right.
For employees to ask questions, to clarify, maybe even gently push back. And ultimately, I think what Helen is saying is that a company has a potential to possibly be more profitable when they are able to really hear what the employees have to say. Because isn't it the employees who are on the ground that are maybe seeing problems that could arise first, or hearing what their clients or customers are saying? And if we don't have a way to dialogue respectfully, then it can be hard to bring those concerns up the ladder.
Right. And the other thing that I was going to mention, two things, is the practice of appreciations, that make a commitment to look for things people did well, and at the water cooler, just say, "I really like," and and that people are instructed, and the staff try to build positive relationships.
Yeah.
Because
so when they see something positive happening, the goal is say it. Just like we do with our kids. If I see them putting their toys away, I don't just think, well, that's what they should be doing. I'll say, hey, I love the way that you just decided to clean your toys up. Now you have lots of space to play something else. So maybe in the workplace, it's, hey, I saw that you went the extra step on that report and I loved it. It was awesome. I could totally see that you put a lot of work into it.
In a given week, look for 3 ways you could appreciate somebody for something they did.
Yeah.
And just go up to them and say, "Can I just tell you, I really liked the way you handled that conversation."
Yeah.
Or that.
And also to sort of institutionalize what Helen is saying in the corporation. So our brains are programmed, so the brain people tell us throughout evolutionary history, to look for what's wrong, and that it's not ever triggered, or not very often triggered by what's working, but it's triggered by what's not working. So they call it the negativity bias. So we help also companies understand that it's a natural thing for you to look for what is missing, what is wrong, what wasn't perfect in this report or in this meeting. But to begin to do what Helen's saying, 95% of most anything may be okay, maybe not only okay, but great. But to begin to develop an appreciated and appreciative and affirming attitude and brain. And that when you do that, it actually grows your own brain. When you give somebody an appreciation, it's like I read an article this morning about nurturing, which was it was interesting to find that when parents nurture their child, the parent receives the same neurochemical high that the child does. That when you generate something positive and somebody else generates a positive energy in you. So that if in a business, but I want to say something about why this is important in corporations, and you hinted at that about increased revenue stream. The research on corporations is that 86% of the corporations in America have around an 80 to 85% retention rate. That is people changing jobs. And when people change jobs, the corporation has to retrain somebody. And one of the major challenges to their revenue stream is training new people. 86% of corporations in America have an 86% turnover rate, around an 86% turnover rate. So that means about 14% of corporations currently in America are what we would call a relational organization, which means they do work laterally a lot, and they do a kind of, even if it's not a formal dialogue, they do a lot of listening and a lot of inclusion of another person's point of view. The 14% of the corporations have a 200 to 400% higher revenue stream than the other 86%. So that we're finding that we can say to a corporation that decides to take the dialogue process into their corporation, that we can, what will happen is that your company will become safe, it'll become a safe environment, so that the people in the company won't walk around anxious about what they're going to say or the reaction to what they say. And they'll become safe environments. The employees will want to stay because you'll have an 86% retention rate. And we now have a measuring scale that's too complicated to talk about here, that if the score on this scale changes positively, we can almost promise you a percentage increase in your revenue stream, because every employee gain increases your revenue or at least reduces your expenses, so that it becomes your bottom line is improved by the degree to which you increase the safety in your environment. And there's a process to do that. It's very simple. We just change the way people talk.
So given all of that, people are motivated to create this sort of safer dialogue at work. Employees, because we do want to feel heard. It's more empowering. Employers, because it reduces turnover and increases profitability. So let's just do a couple little exercises to give some examples. So we don't have to be super formal about this, but I want us to imagine that there's an employee. And the employee is resentful. Let's say I'm the employee. I'm resentful because my boss keeps adding tasks onto my schedule without taking anything off or offering a pay raise or anything. It's just task after task. And I'm frustrated and I'm feeling unappreciated. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that you said earlier, make an appointment. So don't just bring it up out of nowhere. Beyond that, what would be a good way for me to approach my boss so that I feel like I can express it and so that I know I'm going to be heard?
So I have a thought. May I start?
You can start. Mm-hmm.
Say the boss's name is Mike.
John.
Mike.
Let's go with Mike. In this example, we'll have a male boss.
Yeah.
In the next one, we'll have a female boss.
Mike, can I have an appointment with you to talk? And at the appointed time, you sit down and go, Mike, first, I want to mention a couple of things I appreciate about working here. I really like that, and I also like that. And, but recently, these have been my tasks, and then you've added this, and you've added this, and you added this, and I'm just worried I'm not going to be able to do them very well. Like if I had fewer, I know I could do those last 3 really well, but I'm doing the others. So I'm just concerned about what I should do about that.
Let's model as if Mike has not yet learned this better dialogue system and says, well, okay, Helen, I think that you probably just can't handle what everyone else can handle. Is that what you're telling me?
So what I hear you saying is you think I can't handle things well. Well, no, what I was saying is I feel like I'm handling what my original job description was, and I really enjoy being here. But now that you've added some things, I just want to give you a heads up. I'm worried that I'm not going to be able to do all of it as well as you would like, but I'll try if you insist.
And I might add to that. And so what I want to talk with you about is how you and I can maybe talk about my job assignments in such a way that I can do it in a way that's more satisfactory to you. I'd like you to give me some feedback, because I really want to grow in this situation and be a good employee.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in other words, what you're leaving out is a complaint.
Mm-hmm.
You're reporting a problem.
But reporting a problem.
And asking the boss to become a participant with you in coming up with a recommendation or a solution.
That's a great explainer, because a complaint would be, Mike, you keep throwing so much stuff at me. It's too much, and it's a real problem, and it feels like you don't appreciate me, and I'm really frustrated with you. And instead it's, Mike, I don't know if you've noticed, but this is a problem that I've been having, and I would like help solving it so I can do my work better. So those are really good tasks.
Problem is I'm used to doing things where I feel really good about what I've done. And now with so many, I'm worried about the quality of getting it all done. So it's where you want to keep it.
Yeah, that's great, because it really keeps it in the positive, and you are keeping your goal clear, which is, I want to be a good employee to you, not, Mike, you're screwing up.
Yeah.
So now I'm hoping, go ahead, Harville.
I just want to say the principle there is that when we do the program training in a company, is that one of the training sections is called zero negativity. And we try to help companies understand that negativity has never been functional in any relationships, and it's dysfunctional in a company. So how can you convert, and it's one of Helen's favorite phrases, how can you convert a frustration into a request? And so when you go in with a frustration, you can go in, instead of stating the frustration, you go in with a request. I really want to do a good job, and I need some help from you to know how to do this in a different way. And let's co-create a way that I can really function better here. And so the principle is get the negativity out, get in the affirmation, and then go to the prefrontal cortex and figure out a solution with the boss.
That's wonderful. I love that. So let's do this again, where I'm going to come to you guys as my boss. And I mean, you guys are my boss. So Helen is my boss today, and I'm going to come and I'm going to learn from what I've learned from Helen. And if you could model how the boss can show good listening and dialogue, I think that would be really helpful to the people who are managers and bosses here. So I'm going to say, thank you so much for setting this appointment with me, Helen. I really do love working with you in Harville, and I do enjoy the way that we do such and such and this and that, and I admire all of these things. I have been having a problem lately where I've been getting more tasks on my schedule, and I feel like I can't quite perform them as well as I was when I had less tasks on my to-do list. Is there a way that you could help me solve this problem so I can go back to the higher quality work I was putting out?
I think we could, what I'm hearing you say is you want to make sure you're still doing a job, even though I've asked you to increase the number of things. And I think we could problem solve. One of the things I could talk to my assistant, and if my assistant is willing, maybe my assistant for the next 4 months could help you with some things.
Oh, that would be such a relief to me. And I really appreciate that you're saying that your assistant could take some of these tasks off my plate so I can focus on some of these most important ones.
Yeah, or help you with some of them. Just help problem solve if it has to do with writing reports, things like that.
Okay, that's great. So I love this example because I already learned from Helen how to present my complaints better so that I could set you guys up to be good bosses there. And I was kind of debating which direction to do the exercise. And I'm glad I did the direction that way because I don't know that I would have even presented the problem in such a helpful way. But what I noticed that Helen did as my boss was she repeated back to me what she thought I was saying. And then if I had been if I felt she was misunderstanding me, I could have said, well, it's not quite that. It's more this. And then Helen could clarify again as my boss to make sure that we're really addressing the actual problem, right?
Yeah. And again, the principle is accurate listening so that you can mirror back accurately what you're hearing. And instead of parallel conversation, I talk, you talk, that somebody mirrors, somebody listens. And because you don't really know what's in the other person's mind until you listen. Otherwise, we're all in the fantasy mode. We make up what's going on in the other person's mind, or what should be going on in their minds, what better be going on in their minds, which it decreases the efficiency. So when you start to listen is probably the most challenging skill human beings have to learn, and it's the most missing practice in the human race, whether it's in intimate partnerships or at work or at school with teachers and students, parents and children. Listening is the missing ingredient, but it is the transformative ingredient. So when you say, let me see if I've got that. If I got it, you said, did I get it? And so you do accuracy check. And I want to say why this is so important. I continuously do research on things that are interesting to me. And one of the things interesting to me is how come it's so hard for people to listen? And then, of course, why is it so hard for me to listen? Why do I have such a problem with that? Why do I have to check with Helen if I'm getting this right and do all that? So I started doing some research on the history of listening. And one of the pieces of research that came out was so shocking that I'm so impressed by what research people do. I love reading. I don't like to do research, but I like to read the benefits of research. I'd rather think about what the consequences are. So here's the piece of research that was mind-blowing. It's been done over and over, so it's like kind of one of those replicated so many times, it's probably a fact of pieces of research that our ears naturally have a 70% distortion rate. In other words, we only get about 30% of what we hear. The acoustical waves coming to your ear are translated into sound at a 30%, 70% distortion rate, 30% of it. If you're upset when something is coming at you, you have 100% loss of accuracy. So what that means is that if there is an almost automatic response of, let me see if I got that, and then you mirror back, the person's probably always going to say, well, that was sort of what I said, or part of what I said, but not everything. So, okay. So would you send me then what you said again, or the rest of that? And as people go back and forth with this, what we're discovering is that your ear increases its receptor rate, that it increases its accuracy rate by the practice of the mirroring process. And so the question was, how come the ear is so defective? And the people doing research, of course, don't have a answer to that because we don't have a history, but they do think it's connected to our evolutionary development. That as we evolved as human beings, we had to learn how to make sounds because making a sound could drive away a predator or a call for help, or it was very important that you make sounds. It wasn't as important that you heard things accurately. Mainly, you had to know whether that twig snap in the forest sounded like a predator or a friend, and you had to check it out. You had to gross messages for the ear, but refined messages from the voice. So these people think the ear just didn't evolve its receptor accuracy because it was not necessary to have that kind of refined listening. And so it's never been a practice over the, what I think 200,000 or 300,000 years that we can say human beings have been engaging in conversation.
Well, Harville, you know why I like this? You know why I like this conversation is I think one thing that might keep bosses in particular from trying this is the idea that, hey, I don't have a problem with my listening. Why are you saying I need to do this reflective thing? Why would I need to mirror? I've got listening figured out. And the reality is, you're not special if you don't. None of us do, right? Our that's default human mode to lose. You said 70% accuracy is lost. So we can all do this, no matter how great we think we are, no matter what position we're in the company, mirroring back, pausing for a minute, making sure we've heard someone correctly offers us an opportunity to get better at listening.
Absolutely. And that if you don't do that, you could continue to have a distortion rate at 70%, which means that you're going to have misunderstandings and upsets and frustrations, not because of any intention on anybody's part, but simply because the neurophysiological structure of the ear doesn't function well. So we have...
Yeah. And emotions, as you said, emotions. So if your employee comes to you and that person has too many tasks, they feel they have too many tasks, and you're already overwhelmed. Your instinct might be, this is the last thing I need to hear right now, is that Joanna has this problem when I've got all these other problems, and now I'm in panic mode and I'm not listening well. And even if I think I come across calm, my ear in that moment and my brain are not going to be able to receive it accurately the first time unless I intervene.
Yeah.
And by the way, when you mirror and you say, did I get that? You've moved from the lower brain, which like if you're frustrated or angry about someone's opinion about this or something.
That lizard brain.
Yeah. And that's cortisol, adrenaline, and toxic neurochemicals that are released and begin to flow through your bloodstream. And and you often, those kind of people that monologue get sick more than the people, and they have trouble sleeping. But then the people,
because of the stress,
that use the neocortex, where your left brain accurate, right brain art, beauty, but then the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex is between the left brain hemisphere and the right brain hemisphere. And that's when you wonder, did I get it? And is there more about that? I want to make sure I heard everything you said. And you mirror someone back and it releases dopamine, acetylcholine, norepinephrine, and serotonin. And it begins
the good stuff.
The good stuff. And you feel, you have a better relationship and you feel healthier.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think what I like about that is, again, it depersonalizes it. You are not a broken person. You are a human person with a human brain that is part crocodile and part highly intellectual person. And also what I love is, I love that what we know about neuroplasticity is that when we practice thinking a certain way, we expand activity in that area. So while I may be in panic mode, oh my gosh, I can't handle all this extra stuff. This person's going to put more on my plate. I can interrupt it and go, let me make sure I've got that. And that just reminds my brain, we can slow down.
Yeah. Yeah. And eventually, when you do the practice over and over again, you not only develop a better habit, but the brain people say you develop new neurons every time you get it right. And eventually you have a new neuronal pathway, so that it's no longer than a habit, it's your natural way of responding, because your brain has now grown into a new capacity that it can use all the time.
And then imagine how much less of that cortisol, all those stress hormones are happening, because we're kind of reflexively then coming out of that defensive stance.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the term we use about this process is curiosity. It's the other thing that's missing in the human race, that most of us walk around thinking we know stuff, and that how we look at stuff is the way it is, and we don't know that it's just the way it appears to us. It's not the way it is. It's our perception on it. If you become curious rather than judgmental, is when you, and that's a major neuronal pathway to develop, is that to know that if you are frustrated, if something is showing up that ticks you off in some way, that if you become curious about it, so what is going on here? Would you be willing to tell me what you're feeling, what you're thinking? Got this report and blah, 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 blah. I'd like you to talk with me about what happened in the writing of this report. Or the employee could do this with the boss and say, I'm really curious that I've been experiencing receiving some more assignments, a little bit more than I'm accustomed to it and that I'm handling well. Can you help me understand what's happening for you that these are being assigned to me? So the curiosity.
And I'm curious what the goal is. Is there something changing? Or, yeah.
And even curious if we can talk about it rather than dogmatic statements or judgmental statements. When zero negativity is dysfunctional, curiosity is highly functional in a relationship, because it gives you new data for your brain to process. Otherwise, you're going to operate off the old data in your brain, and that old data will always be out of date.
Yeah. Yes, because things are always changing. That is so true. Well, let me just summarize a few of the lessons I've learned today with you all. I love Helen's phrase, convert a frustration into a request. And I can see a million ways in which that will be a game changer in so many relationships in my life right now. Convert a frustration into a success. We want to, when possible, try not to complain, but we can report a problem. This isn't about pushing things down. It's not about repressing something that feels like it's not right. It's about reporting a problem without, and maybe depersonalizing it a little bit so it doesn't feel like a complaint or an attack. And then finally, I had just absolutely loved learning the data that the human ear will receive 70% of the incoming stimuli distorted in some way or another. And that's just baseline. That's not you being a broken person or a bad boss or not intelligent. And I think from there, we can really find a lot of freedom in order to create a sense of emotional safety in these professional settings. Is there anything else you want to add other than the fact that everybody should go buy the book, How to Talk with Anyone About Anything, which is now available anywhere you buy books?
And you'll get all this stuff we were talking about in that book, and you can go back and review it until you get it. Yes.
So I will add around the frustration, because we have those with other people. The best thing to do is, can I have an appointment with you? And I want to talk to you about what happened a little bit ago. And that way, the person might go, I'm really flooded right now in the next 3 hours. How about 4:00 this afternoon? And then they go someplace and say, thank you. This is something that frustrated me. What I wish would have happened is so-and-so, and give them time. They don't want to well, no, I'm not going to do that. Well, go someplace where the two people can have quiet and problem solve. Instead of
that sounds wonderful.
So it's about, quote, making an appointment to convert a frustration into a request.
Yeah.
Because we never know what the other person is experiencing right then. We may feel like it's a perfectly good time. I talked about this a lot with teenage boys. You look at them and they're on their bed, they've got their phone and they're just doing this, and you think they're doing nothing, but you don't know that they're not reading about a major problem they're having with a friend, or getting their assignments together from their classroom Google, anything like that. And in the workplace setting, it may be the same thing. Maybe the boss just had a horrible meeting with their boss and they're emotionally flooded. And being able, I think it shows some respect both ways to say, can I have an appointment? It's kind of disarming.
It honors boundaries. It's
Yeah.
boundary.
Yeah.
Person may be they may have just gotten a call from a relative who's dying, and you don't want to come in and express a frustration at that time.
Yes.
The advanced things in this whole process of communication is what we call validation. And validation is your ability to see something from another person's point of view and not have to agree with it. Usually is if I say you make sense, most people are afraid that you're saying I agree with you. So if in a company somebody could say, hey, you make sense. I can see how given X, you would think Y and Z. Am I getting that? And so that's a good validation. I'm seeing how you are thinking about it, but I'm also, if you need mutual understanding, that doesn't mean I'm agreeing with you that I see it, but thank you for letting me see how, because as I see how you're seeing it, I can see that I could maybe shift the way I'm looking at it, because your view is a different point of view from mine. So that stretches mine. Can you imagine that going on in a company where the boss, in fact, especially if the boss would say, I'm really growing from this conversation with you by looking at how you're doing that, because I really see it this other way. But if I've got you, you're seeing it that way. I'm not quite agreeing with that now, but I can see how you would see it that way. And so it's no
and an example of that might be, I had a thing with my boss where, and this is a real example, I have the most amazing boss, Sabrina, and also Andrea, that you know, and she was saying, can you estimate how much time you're spending on this task versus this task versus this task? And I said, I'm not good with time. For some reason, I have a problem with time. Who knows? Brains are different. And I said, I don't know that I can accurately guess what percentages. I'd have to write it all down. And I was frustrated that she wanted to know a number. And I was like, I can't come up with a number. And she was frustrated that I couldn't come up with a number, but we're good friends. So we figured it out. But I can imagine at that moment, she could have said, I hear that you're afraid that you're not going to come up with an accurate number by just guessing. And I want to reassure you, I don't need an accurate number. I just need an estimate. Or just having her say to me, I hear that you're afraid it's not going to be accurate enough, would be so reassuring to me.
Yeah, and I can see how you're saying that you just have a difficulty with time. And that makes sense. If you can't come up with numbers. So let's see how you can respond to my request. Maybe give me an approximate.
Yeah. Oh, your example was perfect. That was great. That was such a perfect example for a boss. And I hope people hear that, because that's so helpful. And it's funny because one thing I love about Imago is when you all give a suggestion, it feels like duh. It feels like the most obvious thing in the world, but we didn't come up with it. And once we hear it, it's like, oh, that's so natural. That actually makes perfect sense to say it. And then once it's suggested, we can follow it. Well, I have loved this conversation. Dr. Helen LaKelly Hunt and Dr. Harville Hendrix, we always love having you with us. And we are so excited to learn more about your projects in the future.
Well, thank you, Joanna. I'm excited that you keep asking us to be on these interviews, because we feel honored that you are interested in us. And it's always so much fun to talk with you.
Andrea Miller here, the producer and one of the hosts of this extraordinary exclusive event. I wanted to take a quick pause before our next session begins And just see if you're feeling a little electric right now, that I want to hold on to this feeling, that I never want to forget what I just heard feeling. Listen to it. That's important information. And here's the thing about this event. Each session is available to you for 24 hours for free. Then it rotates out to make room for the next day's incredible lineup. That's how we keep this experience free and accessible. So many people who would normally never get to hear from so many of the world's foremost thought leaders in one place, offering such practical, actionable, inspiring insights. But the session you just watched, the one that cracked something open for you, the one you want to share with your sister or your best friend or somebody else you love, or maybe even come back to later when you need it again, that session disappears unless you do something about it right now. This is the exact reason why we made the VIP All Access Pass. And at this moment, it's at the lowest price it's going to be. The price goes up as the event concludes. With the VIP access, you get lifetime access to every single session in this extraordinary summit, all 40 plus of them, plus complete transcripts, more than 45 hours of audio, and 4 exclusive bonuses handpicked from our expert master teachers. So you can listen on a walk, read in the bath, go back to that exact moment that landed for you anytime for the rest of your life. And on the next page, you'll have the option to add the Love and Empowerment Breakthrough Handbook, our beautifully designed journal and workbook, your practical companion to this summit, which features 40 plus exercises tied to each of these sessions. It will take you from watching the session to actually doing the inner work, plus offers guidance on practical exercises to do in your life to make lasting change. The VIP link is right below this video. Scroll down, take just a few seconds, and lock it in before today closes. If you improve even just one relationship, whether it's with your partner, your child, your boss, your friend, or yourself, with this material, you'll have made an invaluable investment in your life. And by not doing it, the cost of inaction is one too many of us has paid too many times. So I hope you say yes to better relationships, yes to more love, and yes to greater empowerment in your life. I look forward to seeing you inside.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Jonas Koffler, co-host of the Relationship Fitness Summit, and I'm excited to be here today because relationships are a story. And if we agree that they're a story, then the health of our bodies and minds would be a central character in that story. And in particular, when it comes to our gut health is a surprising star, if you will, a hero that's paramount to understanding our health and longevity throughout our lifetime, and that of the people we are closest to, our friends and family, our coworkers, even ourselves. So it's important that we unpack, if you will, what the secrets are to understanding our gut health, its relationship to our brain health, our cognitive health, if you will. They're one and the same, and how these impact our relationships. And I'm very honored to be able to welcome my friend and one of the world's foremost experts when it comes to gut health. That is Dr. Partha Nandi. Partha, thank you very much for being here, my friend.
Jonas, it's such a pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's always an honor to talk with you.
Well, let me give folks a little bit of background about you. If you're unfamiliar with Dr. Partha Nandi, he is a practicing physician, an international best-selling author, the chief health editor for Detroit ABC affiliate WXYZ Channel 7 Action News, and host of the Emmy award-winning medical lifestyle show, Ask Dr. Nandi, which is into syndication daily in over 90 million homes in the US and in 90 countries. Dr. Nandi travels the globe speaking on how to be your own health hero, which includes his own no-nonsense approach to food and fitness, how he combines Eastern and Western philosophies, and the science behind the amazing health benefits of spirituality, mindfulness, and community. And we'll be covering all of these pieces from an integrative standpoint today. His latest book is Heal Your Gut, Save Your Brain, published by Mayo Clinic Press, and it delves into the crucial connection between gut health and cognitive or brain function, offering practical advice and insights drawn from his extensive medical expertise and, of course, his personal lived experiences. So we're going to dive in now, Dr. Nandi, and I think that it's important that people have a little semblance of your journey and your why. So maybe share what inspired you to pursue medicine and gastroenterology in particular. Why is it that you chose gut health or digestive health as your specialty, your journey, and your why?
That's a great question. So I'll start off with just medicine. I can still remember like it was yesterday. My mom would when she cooked, she would sit with my sister and I and tell us amazing stories about her dad, my grandpa, who was a physician in India. This is old school, Jonas. So he wouldn't. There's no insurance, so people would come in to see him. He would take whatever they had. So if it was chickens or whatever money they had, he would take that and then really solve the problems of the community. Whatever ailed the folks that came to see him, he would solve it. I found that to be amazing, that you had somebody that their entire job was to really make people feel better. So it drove me towards that. Then something really very important happened in my life. I was about 6 years old, and I was like every other kid, every other boy driving their parents nuts, until one fall I really stopped doing that, and I didn't want to really I didn't have any interest in doing anything. I had no energy. I had some joint pains that wouldn't go away, and the only thing that I had energy for was I used to love, and this was in India, so I would love listening to cricket matches anytime, day or night. That's the only thing that I was interested in. Well, long story short, my parents, my mom specifically, was very worried, and I went to a litany of physicians, and nobody really had an answer for me. And this is India, so I always, we went to traditional doctors, and we went to alternative doctors, and one doctor actually recommended that we cover my body in garlic, Jonas, and we did that with the hopes of getting rid of whatever was ailing me, and of course it didn't work. But finally, one it was I think it was pretty cold, even for India standards, evening, and we had a late appointment with a doctor, and by that time I'd seen so many physicians, I just thought it would be the same. They'd tell me something and go home. This doctor, however, talked to me, listened to me, and said he needs to be admitted to hospital that night. It was Christmas Eve, and I was shocked. I said, I was, even though I was very young, I didn't understand it. So I was hospitalized, and for 2 weeks I was prodded, poked, and everything under the sun. And my dad, who really was my first hero, stayed with me throughout. And what was happening was I was diagnosed. I was in heart failure as a child, and that's why my energy wasn't what it's supposed to be, and I couldn't do very much. I was always lagging behind. I couldn't keep up with anything, and I had heart failure due to rheumatic heart disease. And so for those 2 weeks, I was treated, and then for a year after that, I was on bed rest. My dad had to take me up the stairs, and then slowly I was nursed back to health. And at that time, I said to myself, I want to do, and the doctor who saved my life was Dr. Chandrasekhar. And I said, I want to do what he's doing. I want to be able to take care of people and change their lives. And that began my journey into medicine. I immigrated to the United States, and I became a practicing physician. I chose gastroenterology because I love the combination of, in gastroenterology, just so you know, people come to us with a myriad of problems, lots of problems, and we try to fix them. But we also can do procedures where if somebody's bleeding, when I go to the emergency room, people are bleeding, and throwing up blood, or they're passing blood through the rectum, and we can stop it. So I love the fact that you had a specialty that you could talk to folks and really understand their medical problems and solve it. And then you also had a procedural component where somebody's coming in with an active problem and bam, you could fix it. I love that as a young student of medicine. So I picked gastroenterology. Fortuitously, I now know so much more than I did then when I chose gastroenterology, is that the gut is really an amazing center for health for your entire body. So it was, I think I picked wisely. I love what I do, and the journey's been phenomenal. And I think that what's really nice now compared to when I even trained is that the holistic view of the body and how it's centered around the gut is quite fascinating, and an amazing opportunity for me to really to be able to take somebody's problems or issues that they're having, and really be able to tackle them with solutions that are quite manageable for the patient.
Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, it's fascinating getting your story because you've had a lived experience where, you had suffered, you had, thankfully been properly diagnosed and you got the treatment you needed. And although the garlic didn't help, the other modalities did. And it sounds like that helped launch you on your journey to really where you are now. You had mentioned your grandfather, who's a doctor, but also your father. I'd love to hear a little bit about your relationship with your father, because he suffered and you were there to care for him, as were other members of your family. But I know that was in part what inspired you to write your latest book, and will help us understand, as folks who have parents or maybe aging parents, or children for that matter, and maybe at some point have concerns about our own health, that all of this maps to I think a richer understanding of where our needs reside and what we can do from a preventive standpoint. But let's start with your father. Tell us about your relationship and what happened to him in the last few years.
Man, my dad was just the most amazing individual, just the smartest person I've known. The guy with the big smile. He made me who I was. And even as a young child, I remember going into work on a Saturday morning. My dad was a brilliant polymer chemist, and probably in when he was in India, there were 2 or 3 people that could do what he did. So it was just a very awe-inspiring figure. But even despite that, to us, he was always dad, and he had a very close relationship with me and my sister, and we were a very close-knit family. So he was a pillar of strength throughout my life, especially when I was ill. And when I looked around, my dad was always there. Even though my dad had an incredibly important position where he was, when it came to my health and when I was hospitalized, he was always there. And so he really showed me what commitment was, what dedication is, and what real true love and empathy is. He really taught me that. And as I said, he was a brilliant man, the smartest man I've ever met. Couple of things he did. For example, if you ever drive down the road, any road probably in the world, and it's nighttime and you have this reflective tape that's in the side of the road that helps you know, hey, you know what? I need to stay on the road and not veer off. That reflective tape was invented by my dad. When planes are bombing a runway, my dad, who was a polymer chemist, developed a polymer substance that you pour in, repair the runway within 30 minutes. He did lots of stuff, but just a very bright guy. And so when he, as time went on, he was healthy, but as he became older, and we had a different relationship where we would share different stories, and how I'd tell him about how I would be able to heal patients. He was always fascinated, and he always gave me some perspective. But that all came to an end one day when my dad had a devastating stroke, and I think you alluded to that. My dad, who's never been hospitalized, all of a sudden one night had a life-changing event, and he had a stroke, and that stroke really robbed 10 years of his life. And my sister, especially, as well as with my help, my dad was able to live for at least, I think it was over a decade, actually, Jonas, after he had the stroke. But the life he led was not one where he could play with his grandchildren, understand and give them his wisdom and empathy. So when he had that stroke, I was bewildered, right? I said, hey, listen, I'm a good doc. I think I understand what's going on. I'm empathetic, and I read, and didn't understand what happened with my dad. It's like, there really wasn't a good reason for him to have this catastrophic stroke. I mean, we're talking about somebody's helping my dad with changing his underwear. He can't go to the bathroom by himself. Devastating, life changing stroke for a man who really never had any problems. So as I delved into that, I wanted to know, what could I do? And so as time went on, I saw a significant relationship between the brain and the gut. And even the things I write about in this book, Heal Your Gut, Save Your Brain, that information wasn't available in at the time when my dad had a stroke. For example, we now know that if you take the microbiome of mice that are older, let's say older mice, right, and place it into a young mouse who then has a stroke, and vice versa. Take the microbiome in the gut from the gut of a young mouse and place it into a older mouse that has a stroke. That older mouse has over a 50% increase in survival from the stroke. The post-stroke survival changes when you place the microbiome of another young animal. And then vice versa, if you take a young mouse and you place the microbiome and essentially is part of the gut health of a older mice, that mouse often dies, and the results of their stroke and their rehabilitation is significantly worse. We didn't have that information when my dad had the stroke. So I said, you know what? I want as few people to go through what I did, my dad did, my family. I mean, just imagine all the gifts he could have imparted to my children if we could have prevented it. So I wanted to talk about this, and that's what inspired me to write this book. I said, we've got to be able to give people the tools, because most people are not thinking about their gut when they're having problems with a stroke or other cognitive problems or issues. And what's lovely about the gut is that, guess what? As and we talk about this term, health hero, you can change your gut health, right? It's not like you have to go climb a mountain. So that's what inspired me to write this. It's my dad, and I just want others to be able to take this and make it their own, and not just do it after someone has a stroke or you feel like it's about to happen, but hey, you know what? When you're healthy physically and you're feeling good, let's continue that, because we want to be able to extend that health, especially cognitive health, into your 80s, 90s, and even maybe be a centenarian. So that was the impetus for me to write this book.
And we know people are living longer, Partha, and it's unfortunate and tragic that your father didn't have the opportunity to do that. And I know you did all you could for him, as did your family. I want to talk about microbiome because you mentioned that. And I think for folks who are unfamiliar, maybe if you can just kind of give an example of that. We're really talking about poop and the bacteria inside it, and all of the innards, the material, the elements inside the body. So maybe help people who are unfamiliar with the gut microbiome sort of make sense of it. And then we can talk about how it relates to brain health, as you were saying, or cognitive health.
Absolutely. So that's a great question. So what's the gut microbiome? It's a fancy word for the 1 trillion+ member army in your gut. Little tiny bacteria, viruses, fungi, protozoa, all these organisms that have really been with us for many, many years. We can trace some of them as back as 15 million years ago that these creatures were there. They're tiny organisms that reside in your gut. And what we now understand is that we are living with them in harmony. Because as a kid, or even as a teenager, I would think bacteria or bugs, man, that's a bad thing, right? You got to get rid of bugs. There's an infection. Completely different. These creatures are living synergistically with us, meaning that they're living in harmony. So it's not just that they're there. It's critical for them to be there, because if they're not there, they don't create vital products that are useful for us. So, for example, certain vitamins, if you may not know, certain B vitamins, vitamin K, can actually be produced by this microbiome. Some of the hormones that we use for daily life are produced by these bugs. So this microbiome is not just there; they are an essential part of who we are. People will you may hear this, but people will mention that some of the products in a mother's breast milk will only be digestible by bacteria, not by humans. Isn't that interesting that we've actually developed such a close bond with these creatures that we are creating food for them so that they can then thrive. In return, guess what they do? They help us to be better, and this is how it affects gut health, to be better protected with the gut wall integrity. Many people don't know that the difference between poop and blood is 1 cell layer thick. So means that there's 1 cell layer thick between what's going through your intestine, right, which we call poop, and blood. So we have to make sure that wall is completely ironclad shut and only opens when it needs to. So the gut microbiome helps with that. It helps with the most complex immune system, which is in your gut. It also helps with a very complex neurological system that's in your gut. So this microbiome is super important. And why it actually helps brain health is because there's something called a gut-brain axis. This is the gut and the brain talk to each other probably more than any other two organ systems that we have. And we're talking about they're constantly texting each other. So I'm using a metaphor, obviously. They're like two teenage friends. Like, you ever seen them in the airport? It's like laser speed. They're texting, right? And so the gut and the brain are literally communicating thousands and thousands and thousands of times as we're talking, just in my body. The biggest way is through what's called the vagus nerve. I call it the information superhighway, man. Just from your brain to your gut, and it's going back and forth, sending signals, sending all kinds of information, and then also the gut can send neurotransmitters. So what that means in English is that stuff that can affect your brain, how you think, how you feel, how you process information, how neurons are firing. All those are created by the gut. So the gut-brain axis is super important, and a healthy gut is so important for you to be able to have a healthy brain and overall health in general. But that's what this complex relationship between us, the human being, right, overall, and these trillions of bugs and creatures that are working with us. And what we give them as food is critically important because it really then tells us what kind of products we make. So it's important. What we do is our job is to feed them. If we don't feed them, they die. And if they die and they don't do well, we suffer and our health suffers.
Well, you mentioned the neurotransmitters, right? And specifically, we can talk about serotonin. But tell us more about how that works in the gut. And for those who are unfamiliar, these are very powerful hormones that your body produces that impact your emotional state. And when you lack in certain neurotransmitters, you're not producing them to the extent that you need them, it has a massive and profound effect on your day-to-day state of well-being, your state of mind, and your mood. So maybe tell us a little bit more about that part. I mean, that's fascinating because, I've been prone to mood swings if I'm not eating well. And now hearing you talk, it connects the dots. Well, if I'm more mindful about what I'm putting in my body, I generally feel healthier, my mood brightens, and now it all makes sense because that experience in my gut is influencing how my brain's functioning. But maybe tell us a little bit more about that, your perspective on emotional well-being and helping us understand that connection between the gut and how we feel, our emotional well-being.
No, you're right on. I think what you said was absolutely perfectly well placed. And what we're talking about is never has the adage that you are what you eat. It's never been more true because, listen, one of the things I remember, we have folks that come in to see me that maybe had some mental health issues. And one of the things I ask them, and sometimes they've gone to rehabilitation, and I asked them, I said, I'm just going to call one of my patients Bill. So Bill, have they ever asked you what you ate? It's like a long pause. No. I said, when you went to rehab, what's the first thing that you did? They said, well, we often have a party. I said, what do they give you? They go, well, I've been whatever drug they're taking, obviously. So they maybe have a party with ice cream and cake. So I said, well, you understand, right? That I tell them, Bill, you understand the stuff that we put in our bodies directly relates to the stuff that goes in your brain. So, and what I'm talking to Bill about is that if you give your body when you eat into your gut. The microbiome, if they're getting the wrong stuff, they'll produce the wrong material. So Jonas was alluding to neurotransmitters. So in order to get the right concentration, the right amount, the right kinds of neurotransmitters that are healthy, you need to feed your gut the right way. And neurotransmitters, one of the most well-known that people can relate to, serotonin, your feel-good hormone, right? This thing like juices you up, right? You're like, yeah, ready to party, ready to have fun, and be energetic, enthusiastic, right? Instead of going to work like, you're like, yeah, let's do it, right? And it makes a difference. And so serotonin is produced. 95% of serotonin is produced in the gut. And when I tell people that, they're amazed. And what happens is, if I take a step back, the gut bugs are actually producing these neurotransmitters. They're called postbiotics. So it's the stuff that they produce are called postbiotics. There's another neurotransmitter or agent that affects your brain is called GABA. More than 50% are produced in your gut, and your gut microbiome produces that. And why is that important? Because we often think, right, that our thoughts are our own. If there's something that we feel, right, that we dearly own and it's very personal, there are thoughts. Well, what if I tell you that if I change the concentration of a neurotransmitter in your brain, that your thoughts will be different? You'll be less joyous or more euphoric. If you change the concentration of dopamine, right, and you are euphoric and you're like, I gotta do this, it changes your behavior. So it's so important to be able to have the right microbiome, the right gut health, to be able to produce the neurotransmitters that then go to your brain and really affect the change in your behavior. So many, I'll tell you one study, 3,000 adults that have been fed a certain diet changes whether they have depression or not, or the effects of medications on depression, or the fact that they may not need medications. Young adults who are fed a Mediterranean diet, which is a very balanced diet, great complex carbohydrates, very little processed material, including processed sugars, you can see in those young adults that there's less incidence of depression and anxiety. So it's more than just theoretical. It's more than just talking about, hey, you know what, there's this neurotransmitter that's created. It's the fact that if we change our microbiome by feeding it the right stuff, you can change not only your mood, but your cognitive health. And that's what's exciting about it. So your gut microbiome, your gut-brain axis, and then it's finally the products that they produce, right? And not even to mention, there are things like short-chain fatty acids that are produced by your microbiome, this trillion-member army of bugs that are in your intestinal system. They can fortify your entire body and be able to give you the optimal gut health and optimal brain health. So just a glimpse into what we can do. And again, what's exciting to me is that you can change this. You can change it with behaviors and activities that all of us can do every day.
It's fascinating, Partha. The bigger takeaway that I'm getting from this is because so many of us are so ignorant to and blind to the power of our gut, this whole idea of trusting our gut. Well, the basis is very clear in terms of the science, and especially the more recent science, right? When it comes to the Microbiome Project or some of the other aspects you write about. But the other thing that's really interesting is that we are a reflection of our gut, a reflection of our gut health. And now that we're aware of that, what can we do to change it? And so this is a good segue, I think, into one of the more terrifying problems that we have to confront as a country, with many, many millions of boomers who are retiring and so forth, or still working for that matter, but entering their late 60s and 70s and 80s and so forth, and dealing with some of the lifestyle diseases or the more intense degenerative diseases such as Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, to name a couple, strokes, which I too, as you well know, suffered in my 20s. And so what I want to know is given what you've stated about the microbiome, what can we do from a disease prevention standpoint? And how do we think about our gut health? We can get more into practical aspects of it, but tell us about sort of what your kind of high level advice is when it comes to disease prevention and gut health.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm glad you brought this up. One of the biggest reasons why I wrote the book is because of my dad's stroke. But neurological diseases are catastrophic, right? Catastrophic. Every 3 seconds, someone's diagnosed with dementia. Every 6 seconds, someone's diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. Every 4 minutes, someone's dying of a stroke. These are not small problems, right? And we don't seem to have great solutions to them. And I'm someone who believes that this is not your destiny. You're not just getting so old that you need to get, this is just your time to die from a destructive, horrible disease. So I offer that we can do something about it. And I think the gut is one of the fundamental ways we can. I mean, get this. Up to 70% of folks with Parkinson's experience GI symptoms years before their motor symptoms appear. So in Parkinson's disease, Jonas, you have these things called Lewy bodies. They're just, kind of clumps of protein that are not quite right, and they end up in the brain and absolutely mess you up, right? Did you know that you can find those earlier than when you find them in the brain? You can find them in the gut. And there's growing evidence that the gut may be where this starts. And the fancy name is alpha synuclein proteins. And so you get these proteins that are misshapen, start in the gut and then go to the brain. There's actually a term called Alzheimer's gut, where you can look at the microbiome of a patient with Alzheimer's, and they have distinct features that are common amongst patients with Alzheimer's. And so what I'm trying to allude to is that we now know that there's a strong link between them, and often a link that you can find way before you see the clinical symptoms of these devastating diseases. And to me, that's utterly fascinating, because if you can then change that whole pattern and change your gut health way before it's causing problems in your brain health, we have an opportunity to change one of the most devastating groups of diseases that we have. I mean, I have patients that are worried and are more frightened with Alzheimer's than they are of death. They are, because the biggest thing, listen, I mean, all of us are concerned about, not having heart disease or heart attacks or cancer. But when you have passed those physical, I'll call them physical challenges of disease, you worry about your mind, and you think to yourself, I want my grandkids to know that I know them, that I can play with them, that I can participate with them on a level that I feel that's respectful of who I am, and maintain my dignity. So it's so important that we look at these relationships between the gut and the brain, as I talked about with stroke in the beginning, how looking at the health of the gut can actually not only just prevent stroke, but help you with post-stroke recovery. So I think the potential for prevention is enormous. But hey, I don't know how many neurologists are asking folks, what's your gut health like? Or vice versa, how many gastroenterologists are asking, hey, are you having any problems with some subtle changes in your memory? We're just not making those connections yet. As patients, as folks that are, have families, we need to start thinking about that and ask our doctors, hey, what do you think about my gut health? My mom had Alzheimer's, or I have an aunt that has Parkinson's. Do you think that my constipation could be a feature of this? And what can I do about it? We have to be proactive. We have to be healthier as an advocates for ourselves. And that's where the opportunity of prevention is so critical here. And it's so exciting to me.
One of the things that's a little alarming is, like, for example, I had a beloved family member who had been suffering from Parkinson's and eventually succumbed to the Parkinson's related to other issues he was dealing with in terms of disease, which broke my heart, obviously. It's my dear uncle, Bob. And it was, painful to see such a brilliant, talented artist who couldn't paint anymore because of the shaking, the tremors and so forth, and then the related decline physically and cognitively. I wonder, looking back and also thinking about your father, the things we know now, right? Or the problem with medicine being so specialized. And I know not so much in your case because you're integrated in your approach. But a good example is when I had my stroke, my neurologist never asked me about my gut health. Why would he at the time, right? Now I hope there's more of an openness in our healthcare system where people are asking those questions. And the fact that Lewy bodies have been found in the gut should be a clear signal that, things are starting to change and there's a growing awareness. So that's encouraging. But I will say I'm rightly terrified. And I think those who are watching are probably very curious about, okay, so we know what the bad news looks like. And we know that potentially some of us are going to suffer potentially from these diseases. Hopefully not. Hopefully we can change course and that disease is not necessarily our destiny. But I'd love for you to tell us the good news, and the good news around the effective ways that we can ward off these diseases and prevent the onset, and look at gut health as the bridge to doing that. And so I know in your book you go deeply into this, but I'd love for you to walk us through or talk us through the process of how we can think about and actualize fixing our gut. And I know there are many facets to your approach, but in particular, I would love to hear you tell us about the 5 pillars and what that looks like in a very practical level. Thank you.
Of course, I wish we could play the Beatles song "Here Comes the Sun." I love that. Whenever I feel a little bit down, that song comes on, and this is what I feel is the opportunity in front of us. And I thank you for allowing me to be able to share this. So I think that improving gut health can be done in many ways, and often, and you hear people talk about diet, right? And changing your diet and changing, eat this or eat that or the supplements, and that's all good. But I actually like to be able to take an approach which I call the 5-pillar plan, and I'll go through it with you. The first one we can talk about is nutrition. It's a very powerful tool. So what I mean is, one of the biggest weapons we have is really the ability to control what we put in our mouth, right? Because we're feeding our microbiome, and to me, eating a very, very diverse range of whole foods are so important. Fruits and veggies, whole grains, lean proteins. You can do that. Try to incorporate prebiotic and probiotic foods. What does that mean? Prebiotics are the foods that feed your bugs, the microbiome. Foods like garlic, onions, and then probiotics are the actual bugs that are in your intestinal system that you can add. So fermented foods. I love yogurt. You may like sauerkraut. Some people like kimchi. Add that, if you can, to every meal. I mean, if you see what I pack in my little, my lunch bag when I go to work, is I pick some fruit, often blueberries or strawberries, with yogurt, with no sugar, just plain yogurt, and use the sugar from the fruit to be able to sweeten it. And you can find fermented foods with every meal. So that's very important. Staying hydrated is key, because you need to be able to hydrate your body in order for your digestive system to be healthy. And then if you go on the other pillars, so let's talk about nutrition, very, very basic overview. But after that, I love talking about having a purpose-driven life. So what does that mean? That means that, for example, I know Jonas, and Jonas is extremely purpose-driven. So if he's doing something, he knows why. So it's important to be able to understand why it is that you're doing what you're doing. Because if you're not, it's very, very difficult to motivate yourself every day. So a simple example is that, my kids have this device called a Nintendo Switch. I have never had to remind them to plug that in, ever, because they know, and they have a purpose that they have to play with that. So my analogy is that we have to find out what it is that you want to do. For me, it's I really want to be able to be there for my kids and my grandkids. If that's true with you, then pattern your life with it to make that happen. So if it's important that way, your gut health has to be important, and you want to make sure that you position all of your activities in your life to be able to handle that. That's the second pillar. The third pillar to me is having a community. So right now we're all talking together, right? We're talking as a group to be able to support each other. We now know that overall health and gut health is supported actively by having a community. We know even that the gut microbiome is more diverse. How? Because when you have a community, you actually decrease inflammatory mediators, you decrease cortisol, and you support a healthier gut and a healthier microbiome. That's my third pillar. Fourth is spirituality. It's very important, right? We talk about spirituality, and it doesn't mean, right? It doesn't mean that you have to be able to go on top of a mountain and pray. If you want to, that's great. But spirituality means just understanding your place on the planet. And it means just taking a walk in nature. It may mean doing yoga. I love meditation, right? I love meditation, and the meditation that I have every single day, no matter even if I'm traveling, I do 5 to 10 minutes. What does that do for me? It is the same as our community. It reduces the unrest. Remember, when people don't have ease in their body and their gut, they have dis-ease. So that sense of calmness and that sense of oneness that you have with spirituality actually affects your gut health. We know from studies that your gut health improves with your gut wall integrity is better, your microbiome is more diverse. So you're actually improving your gut health by doing that. And the last pillar is movement, which means that you're out there and your body is not standing still. Your body is not on the couch picking up the phone, calling DoorDash as you're watching the phone, watching TV, or sitting on your device, looking at one more post for the last hour. So movement is critical because when your body moves, it also energizes the motility of the gastrointestinal system, right? And then it also produces energy homeostasis. So in English, that means it's producing the right energy available for a healthy gut and healthy microbiome. So again, nutrition, purpose-driven life, community, spirituality, and movement. And if you can make your movement purposeful, it's even better to me because it's hitting 2 pillars. So that means instead of having your kids in the corner with their the TV babysitting them, walk with them, play with them, run with them, sweat with them, wash your laundry with them, because those kinds of things really make a difference. So I like to be able to go through, a 5-pillar plan. I talk about this to my kids and ask them to really be to understand. And this is clearly, we're talking about gut health. It absolutely affects gut health, but the added benefits is that it will help your overall well-being and your overall health.
It's really powerful. And, I want to pick up on, I guess we can take one at a time. So the movement or motility aspect, so the actual physical movement of the body, exercise. And I know in the book you write about, we think of sort of exercise as going to a gym. And so, and I know, as we talked about my story, that walking was one of my saving graces. It was one of the most powerful tools that I used post-stroke to get back into my body and the somatic experience. And so there are different reasons for that. One is just so you can actually feel that connection in mind-body, right? Being present and being aware of your energy and how it moves through the body. And yoga is very important to me, if not paramount, in that recalibration. The other thing I think is really important is this. I feel better, and I feel like I have, without getting too much into the detail, but I have a better bathroom experience, a better bowel movement when I've moved around intensely, right? And I think that's important to move the body so you help physically. I mean, you can talk about the mechanism scientifically as a physician far more eloquently than I, but the point is that you're helping the body cleanse itself, move the toxins out, and so forth. And that's really important. That's the the mobility piece of it in reverse order. I think the point about spirituality, there's a great story that you share about the study of monks as meditators versus non-meditators and the powerful implications on, let's chalk it up to the monks are less stressed out perhaps than those who do not meditate. They're not practicing mindful meditation for 12 hours a day. Understandably so. They're more joyful, they're more at peace and at ease. And I can see that in your energy as well. It's one of the things I love most about you, Partha, is that there is an inner calmness that guides you. And I think that the science behind it is really remarkable in that the monks have different microbiomes. They have different signatures. There are different things happening from a biochemistry standpoint. I don't know if you want to comment on that at all, but that's fascinating.
It is, and I'm alluding to that when I say when you are mindful, the physiology is this: when you're mindful and you are actually concentrating on something besides your boss yelling at you. Why did my wife say that? How come that guy, when I was driving the right speed, gave me that wrong finger as I drove by. You don't think about that. And when you don't think about that, guess what happens, right? Your body does not secrete what it's perceived as a fight or flight response. We all are born with this ingrained this response that's really inherent to our survival. It's called the fight or flight. When we were hunters and gatherers, we wanted to eat lunch and not be lunch. And so when we saw something that was chasing us, right, we ran. And so that fight or flight response is in us. When you are meditating, when you are spiritual, whether you're a Buddhist monk or you're a physician or you're a teacher or you're a student or whoever you are, when your body's at peace, you're no longer talking about thinking about all of those actions that activate the fight or flight response, activate the reticular activating system, which increases all the hormones that increase inflammation. When you're doing that, when you're not creating inflammatory responses, your gut is in homeostasis. It's not diverting energy supply to your heart and your lungs because the body perceives it, says, emergency, we've got to put all resources away from the gut. So your gut then is now in concert with the rest of your body. It's in homeostasis and it's in balance. When it's in balance, it allows for your bacteria and your microbiome in general to be able to thrive. And that's kind of the thinking behind it. At first blush, it's like, why does that matter? Now, when you understand all the processes that happen when you meditate or pray or do yoga or do Tai Chi, all of those actions help you to be in balance. And as you really, really mentioned very well, like we talked about in the book, whether it's monks or other individuals, it can really help your gut and help the rest of your body.
100%, Partha. And I so admire that. And I think it's really important for folks watching that they not lose sight of the power of mindfulness or calmness, because not only do they feel better, but when you're in a relationship with someone else, whether it's at work or with a parent or with a friend, when you come from a place of calmness, they pick up on that. And it generally it allows you to improve or strengthen those social bonds, which we know over time, as the Harvard study on longevity and many of the other studies bear out, that the calmness, the support, the more centered you are, the more thoughtful you are in your relationships, generally that has a powerful halo effect on your lifespan, your health span. So all that's really powerful and maps, I think, to the community piece that we talked about, right? You are a reflection of those closest to you, and they impact your ability to enjoy a good life. And by the way, what a powerful tool to share with other people, the 5 pillars. It's something that you can talk about. And, I wonder, Partha, if you're as you build your broader movement, if there's a kind of a way that you can challenge one another, whether it's a parent, a loved one, a child, a coworker, to take on more of the 5 pillars and implement them in life, whether it's movement or spirituality, community, purpose, or nutrition more simply. But I love the way that you've set this up. So thank you for doing this. I think, from my standpoint, this is a very powerful book, and it's a book that everyone should read because it will greatly enhance our appreciation of the gut and how important it is in our lives. And so I'm wondering if there's any other message or maybe any other inspiration you can share with folks as we wind down.
Absolutely. I think it's really important to know, and I think you pointed this out, that you have the power to really affect your health. To me, that's the most important message, that your health is in your own hands, and that when you look at gut health, and I feel that it's really a powerful tool to enhance your overall health, including your brain health. You can make small, consistent changes. One of the things that lots of my patients have trouble with, they feel there's a mountain of things that they have to do, that it's insurmountable, that they've had a lifetime of doing things very differently than what we're prescribing. Make small, consistent changes in each of those pillars, right? Pick one change in each of those pillars every day. And if you do that consistently, in a matter of days and weeks, you'll see profound changes. But it's the consistency. It's not the the grand effect. And I think our society has become where you have to have a quick hit, I want to hit the grand slam. I don't want to base hit, right? But this is really a consistent project, a consistency project where you are making small changes every day, and it's going to lead to monumental changes in your life. And you'll see it. I've seen it in my life. I've been able to really be able to have great relationships with my family, and my professional and my personal life has really thrived with using these pillars and understanding it. And it's not just casually doing it. To me, it's got to be conscious. You've got to really have, and that's why the purpose piece is so important. But to summarize, you can do this by prioritizing your gut health and making simple changes in each of those pillars I talk about: purpose, nutrition, movement, community, and spirituality. Find one piece in your life that you can change every day, and in a matter of days, you'll see a tremendous difference. So I think that's what I'm hoping to achieve with Heal Your Gut, Save Your Brain.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I do want to if we can recap a few of the takeaways and some of the other, I think, key points here, because there's, not everyone will buy the book, but for those who do, they're going to get a much deeper and richer experience. For those who are pressed for time or don't have budget, let's just run through it. So we went over the 5 pillars, and Dr. Nandi talked us through what that looks like in terms of movement and spirituality, community and purpose and nutrition. And there are aspects, as he mentioned, they're not instant gratification. It's not an instant, I do it this minute and I'm better, the next minute. It's the incremental build that Dr. Nandi is talking about. We are going to see improvement over time. And I can attest to this because I practiced many of these things coincidentally, and thank God, through the recovery from my stroke many years back, and they work. And so I can attest to that. Beyond that, we talked about emotional well-being and neurotransmitters and the power of the gut to produce and regulate concentrations of those neurotransmitters in our brain. And so if you want to get your head right, if you will, your emotions right, look in the gut and trust your gut and help it, feed it the right way, and practice those 5 pillars to make sure that you're in a balanced place where it probably will, again, over time, help you regulate your mood, help you regulate your energy levels, and so many other profound aspects on our well-being, and that ripple effect, not only how you feel, but how you make others feel in your relationships with friends, family, and so forth. Disease prevention, Dr. Nandi talked about the concerns about gut health and the relationship to Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, as well as stroke, and some of the statistics that are quite alarming. So keep those in mind and know that once you understand and can start practicing a better approach to gut health, it's going to bear fruit on your cognitive well-being. We talked about the microbiome as well, and this sort of mysterious yet hugely important aspect of our being that most of us, we can't see it. So it makes sense that we'd overlook it. But now that we know the bacteria make us who we are and have a profound impact on our relationships, we can be a little more proactive. And then also understanding that connection between the gut and the brain, what Dr. Nandi termed the gut-brain axis. So all of these things are really, really helpful in terms of framing our overall health, our health as it relates to our relationships, and what that's going to look like over our lifetimes, regardless of which of the 5 areas we're talking about: relationship with ourselves, with our friends, our family, our workplace, with our romantic partners. And so, Dr. Nandi, I want to give folks a reference to where they can find more about you at askdrnandi.com. That's Nandi, askdrnandi.com. You can also catch a show and the new book, Heal Your Gut, Save Your Brain book.com. That's Heal Your Gut, Save Your Brain book with the Mayo Clinic. I want to thank you again so much for this wonderful discussion and all the education and insights you provided. And I applaud you for your work in your care for humanity. Thank you again, Dr. Nandi.
Hey, thanks for the opportunity, Jonas. I really appreciate it. And thanks for all you do every day.
Did that session just give you language for something you've been carrying or maybe feeling for a long time but didn't have the words for it? It's not an incredible feeling, and that matters. Here's what I know from producing these events for years. The moment you just had that aha, that recognition, it's tough to make it stick and really put it into practice unless you return to it, whether it's watching this video or reading the transcript. To really internalize it, it takes some effort. And so this session appears tomorrow morning. That's how the summit works. It runs for 24 hours and then it rotates out. But the VIP pass, it changes that for you. Every session, lifetime access, yours to return to whenever the right moment hits. And with this summit, it will. You'll also get 4 exclusive bonuses from some of our foremost experts, hand-selected to go deeper on what you just heard and what you really need. One conversation, whether it's with your partner, your kid, or yourself, where you finally have the right words at the right moment. That's the return on this teeny tiny investment. And it's available right now at the lowest price you'll see during this event. The link is below. Take 60 seconds, make the investment in yourself, in your life, in your relationships. Get the transcripts, get the audio, get the video, get it all so that you can internalize it and make the big impact on your life. Most people who find their way to this summit have already done the work. Therapy, books, coaches, workshops, previous summits. You're not here because you haven't tried. You're here because you have, and it still hasn't closed the gap between knowing what to do and actually mastering it. How long have you been trying to close that gap? For most people I work with, it's years, often many years. They can explain their attachment style better than most therapists. They know exactly what they're doing and when they're doing it, and they still repeat the same patterns. They still lose themselves. They still end up in the same frustrating place. And here's why. That gap isn't willpower. It's not a discipline problem, and it's not a knowledge problem. It's a nervous system problem. Your body never got the memo that it's safe to upgrade to the kind of change that's transformative. Add that up, not just the money, though that's been real too, but the years. The relationships that never quite deepened or felt the way you wanted them to. The energy it takes to manage the same behaviors over and over and over, while the life you actually want stays just out of reach. That's what staying stuck has already cost you. And it compounds. Every conversation you heard this week described what love and empowerment can look and feel like. Our speakers, they were real. The insights were real and powerful. And you're leaving, I hope, with so much more clarity and excitement than when you got here. But here's what the summit and every approach you've tried before it couldn't give to you: the actual capacity to receive what they were describing, because that doesn't live in our understanding. It lives in our bodies. And your body has been running a different program the entire time. That's why everything else fell short. Every approach worked from the neck up. Mindset, strategy, reframes, talk therapy. Your mind got it, but your body never got the memo, because your Heartset, your actual baseline energetic state, was never part of the equation. Heartset is your core emotional and energetic state, how you feel and what you radiate from the inside out. It truly is your vibe, and it can't be performed, but it can be tuned, and that is everything. It's how safe and relaxed you feel in your body and how connected you are to your truth. It's not your mood. It's your baseline. Now, if you caught our live session today on Heartset, you felt the difference. Something moved in your body, not just your head. That was 20, 25 minutes. Heartset Live is 6 weeks of that powerful transformation. 5 live sessions plus a set of group integration calls where I guide you through rewiring your nervous system and your belief system until safety in your body and trust in yourself aren't things you understand. They're things you start to live. You won't come out of this with more to think about. You'll feel differently in your body. You're going to get it. And you're going to start showing up differently in your life and in your relationships, not because you decided to intellectually, but because your system finally reorganized around safety instead of survival. And that's what this summit is pointing toward. Heartset Live is how you actually get there. This week only, we are offering a founding member offering with founding member prices that will be the lowest it will ever be. It's going to go up when the summit closes. So scroll down. The link is right there. Say yes to Heartset, and I'll see you June 3rd. You already know. You do. And that's the part nobody talks about. You're not confused. You're not uninformed. You know what the pattern is. You can see it coming. You can narrate it in real time. And it runs anyway. That knowing without the ability to stop it is its own kind of exhaustion and frustration. And here's what exhaustion actually costs you. Not all money, although that's part of it, but the moment you saw exactly what was happening in a relationship or in your life and still couldn't show up differently for yourself, the version of you that you almost keep becoming, the intimacy that stays just out of reach with yourself, not because you don't want it, but because some part of you still doesn't feel safe enough to let it land. That quiet erosion of trust in yourself, every time you watch that same pattern run again, knowing everything you know, that is the price of a nervous system that never learned it was safe to show up and be seen and safe in your body. Every conversation you heard this week described what love and connection and empowerment can look like. The speakers were incredible. They are incredible. The insights were real. And you're leaving with more clarity and hopefully inspiration than when you arrived. But clarity about what love looks like is not the same as being available for it in your body in real time, that you deserve it when it actually counts. That's the gap. And that's exactly the gap that Heartset closes. Your Heartset is your core emotional and energetic state, how you feel and what you radiate from the inside out. It's not your mood, but your baseline. And it can't be performed, but it can be tuned. And when you tune it and it shifts, you stop managing yourself through connection and start actually experiencing that freedom, that authenticity. Every approach you've tried and everything you heard this week worked from the neck up. Heartset Live works where the behaviors actually live in your body, your nervous system, the place that determines whether love lands or just makes sense intellectually. If you were at one of our Heartset sessions this week, you already felt that difference. Something moved that wasn't in your head. You were not intellectualizing it. That was just 20 minutes. In 6 weeks is a fraction of what staying stuck has already cost you. Over 5 live sessions plus group integration calls, I'll guide you through rewiring your nervous system and your belief system so that you feel safe in your body and start to trust in yourself. These aren't theories anymore. They're becoming internalized. They're who you are. You came to the summit because you wanted more in your life, in your relationships, and in yourself. Heartset Live is the obvious next step. Not a bunch more information, but instead building the capacity to actually hold it all. Founding member pricing closes with this summit. So this is the lowest price it's going to be. Prices are going to go up when we close. And again, when the next cohort opens. So if you scroll down right now, the link is right there. I look forward to seeing you June 3rd. Hey there, welcome back. Oh, I'm hearing a little bit of an echo. One second, everybody. Okay, that's better, Dane. Are we good? Okay. Hi, welcome back. My name is Andrea Miller. I am one of the hosts of this amazing, extraordinary event and its producer, and I'm just delighted to be guiding you through day number 3 of the Heartset activation and integration session. And honestly, thanks for a little bit of grace. We had some AV issues just here at the beginning, but we're going to get through everything in the next, say, 25 minutes, and it's going to be worth the wait, I promise. As I always like to do when I'm doing live activations, I want to hear from you guys. What's your energetic level right now? I want to make sure I can see the chat. A 1 or a 2 at the bottom, you're in a dark place. You're struggling. And I see that a lot. Okay. So keep it real. This is for you, not for me. 10, you may be levitating. So let me know in the chat where you are. And by the way, I realize a lot of you aren't necessarily seeing the chat, given if your screen is taking over, rather if the video screen is taking over your entire, whether it's on your phone or your laptop, you may not be seeing the chat. So if you're not, then no worries. But I'm seeing a couple. All right, I'm seeing a 6. I'm seeing a 4. Okay, we're going up. And this is the key, guys. There is always an opportunity. Listen, if you're at a 10, go to 11, right? There's always room to improve. And especially if you're on the lower side where I just want for you to be at a baseline. I mean, this is at the heart of Heartset, being at a baseline of a 7+, right? And it's like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good to great. So let's, Lily, if I forget, remind me to check back in before we conclude today. So let's talk about why we're really here. Yes, in terms of the summit, it's the Love and Empowerment Summit. So we all want to be the best, most empowered version of ourselves and thrive in our relationships. And at the same time, what does that take to feel joyful, to feel good in our bodies, to feel sovereign? That feeling good, I just came up with a new phrase that I am all about, to feel chronically peaceful. I mean, how's that for a good idea, right? So that's the goal, I think, for all of us, because when we feel chronically peaceful, we're more patient with the people that we love. We're even more patient with the people we don't love, right? There's maybe somebody annoying at the checkout in front of you. She's taken too long, or whatever the case may be. As we continue to raise our baseline, everything gets better. And that genuinely is at the heart of Heartset. And for those of you who haven't been here, I'm going to give the quick definition to really ground us. Heartset is your core emotional and energetic state. I contrast that to mindset, which is what you do, what you think and what you do. Heartset is how you feel and what you radiate from the inside out. It's not your mood, it's your baseline. It truly is your vibe. It can't be faked and it can't be performed, but it can be tuned, and that's everything. And how we do that through the Heartset courses, Heartset Mastery, Heartset Live, I'll be telling you guys a little bit about that toward the end, is through rewiring your nervous system and rewiring your belief system. So you develop real self-trust. And what does that lead to? A sense of emotional freedom, abundance, love, joy, more fun, pleasure. All of that is there for you. And so what we're doing today, it's like, where are we now and where are we trying to get to? And so we all want to feel better in ourselves as a baseline. But a lot of times it's like a sine wave, like, I'm doing good. Oh, darn, I'm like kind of crabby and so forth. And so today's session is on the concept of reset. And I love this because what I have experienced in my own life is a reset is always available to me. And I want that to always be available to you, right? Things are going well. Suddenly you get a little crabby. You get a little bit of bad news. Whatever is going on outside of you, listen, none of us are immune to being impacted by what's going on outside of us. At the same time, we all have so much more power to face these things and feel these things than we often give ourselves credit for. And why? Because nobody ever taught us. And that's what I'm on fire to teach. So we're going to be going through a couple of exercises with regard to a reset, and then we're going to go a little bit deeper. And I just really want to emphasize, like, so we all want to feel good. We all want to feel joyful and all those things. And I know I've been emphasizing this a lot, but this is something that's so near and dear to my heart. There are so many of us that are accomplished, and yet we doubt ourselves. And it's like, oh my God, we're living in cognitive dissonance, in emotional dissonance, and we pay a price for that. It's like hitting the brakes while we're hitting the gas as we're driving down the highway. And that had been the story for me in a big way. And it's not anymore. And it's why I am particularly passionate to say, if you relate to that, if you're that person that's like, oh my God, she's talking to me, I'm talking to you. And honestly, it took me a long time to realize this was what was going on, and the different things that held me back, that caused me to not feel great, to feel joyful and so forth regularly. The things that I typically see, and again, this isn't just for this particular profile of a person, whether male, female, professional, not professional. I'm talking to all of us. Okay. It's just this group tends to, be the one that's like really, it's so normalized. They don't see it. Okay. What I'm seeing is so much, I'm not enough. I'm afraid to try. I don't think I deserve it. I say yes when I mean no. I people please. I fawn. When somebody says something that is upsetting to me, ha ha ha, a nervous laugh, right? All these different methods that we unconsciously do to protect ourselves, so many of them are a form of self-abandonment. And I say that really seriously because as I continue working with my clients and I'm pointing that thing out, that nervous laugh, saying yes when they mean no, self-sacrifice to the extreme, it's like, wow, I didn't realize I was doing that. So to me, awareness is where the transformation starts. And a lot of times these behaviors, they're a tell and they feel so normal. One of them that I love is, somebody offers to do something for you and you go, are you sure? Like what? And you're trying to be polite, but it's like, they're sure. Right. And it's okay for people to help you. It's okay to receive. Not only is it okay, it's imperative that you do. So let me know in the chat which of these things, or if what didn't I name when it comes to what is preventing you from feeling great as your baseline. I'm going to try to keep a quick eye here. Yeah. Okay. Michelle, I'm with you. I'm afraid to try. Even when I know I can do it, right? Or I'm too old. I mean, that's a load of crap. Didn't Grandma Moses start painting at like 90 something? I don't deserve it. Oh, yeah. So this is what's so common. And this is what we're addressing today. And in all the Heartset work that I do, and particularly in the Heartset live event that I'm running starting June 3rd, because today in these activations, I'm giving you a taste and I'm giving you tools that I'm really excited for you to incorporate in your life. But I also know this, to really incorporate, to really internalize and master, typically it always takes repetition. And so often we go, oh yeah, I know that, or I understand that, but understanding and knowing isn't the same as internalizing. So it becomes part of your identity. So here's what we're going to do. Let me just make sure I've got all my points. Okay. So, okay. Oh yeah. And always worrying about, what do we see here, Dane? Always worrying about, oh wait, you're covering that. Oh, the next thing. Totally. All right. So what we're going to do today is, I talked about having a reset. So the thing that's really cool about a reset is having these techniques available to you. So if things are going well and suddenly, oh my gosh, somebody is late, and now that is causing this whole ripple effect, is totally screwing up my day. Or if it's, you know what, I just wake up in the morning and I'm just feeling stressed. Like the reset works. And in part, it works because you say, I'm going to reset now. And that cognitive decision is a powerful one. Now, is it a sufficient one? I say no, but it is a powerful one. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to get into state, and as I've been talking about over the last couple of days, to be in that Heartset state, that emotional and energetic state, is key to taking in, especially for all you guys attending all these love and empowerment events, sessions and so forth, to be in a state where you're really receptive to learn. I mean, I've interviewed some of the world's top teachers on teaching people how to learn. They always say state first so that you can take it in. And honestly, state first always, because if you're feeling crabby or overwhelmed, then you're not going to perform as well, and your lived experience is not as much as it could be. So state first always. So here's what we're going to do. Feet on the floor, eyes closed, one hand on your heart chakra, one hand on your sacral chakra, and feel your booty in the chair. Feel your booty or your back, if that's more comfortable to you, or sit forward. So you're going to close your eyes and just take a nice deep exhale out. I'm watching the time. And we're going to go with free face. If you're new, I'm going to walk you through it. If you've been here in the last day or two, you go, oh, I know what to do. I want you to notice your face. If it feels like a piece of popcorn, welcome to the club. So many of us carry so much tension in our faces that it can feel like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize it was so scrunched. I know. That's why we do free face. So now soften your cheek muscles around your eyes, your jaw. Notice that powerful, peaceful place between your eyebrows. Just notice. No concentrating. Just by noticing, you activate it. Now notice how your shoulders are falling. And a nice deep breath out. I wish I could see you all, because what I know is I would see a whole bunch of you that suddenly have a little half smile on your face. Just breathe into it. And now I'm going to add 2 rounds of the root breath. I call it the root breath because it's so grounding. This is the 4-7-8 formula, where we'll breathe in for 4, we'll hold for 7, and we'll breathe out for 8. We're going to do it a couple of times together. And then I'm going to walk you through the Heartset Wi-Fi method. And it's so cool. I know you're going to love it. So here we go. I'm counting us out. Do it with me. In for 2, 3, 4. Hold for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In for 2, 3, 4. Hold for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and out for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now just sit for a moment. Feel that calm and that peace inside of your body. Feel your heartbeat. I ask myself all the time when I'm doing these exercises, why don't I feel my heartbeat so much more frequently? It's your heart, right? So feel that what I hope feels a little tingling, certainly more relaxed. What I often feel is that my body is a weighted blanket. It's just, it feels so good, like grounding into the floor. And with that, I'm going to introduce the Wi-Fi method. This is such a powerful reset tool, as well as what I call a priming tool, because if you use it regularly, and I'm talking ideally 3 times a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon, once in the evening, taking 2 or 3 minutes, you prime your body to be in an elevated, energetic, and emotional state. You're tuning your heart set. And what it means as a practical matter, you get disrupted less frequently, right? Because you've raised your baseline. And when you do get disrupted or dysregulated, you're able to come back a lot more quickly because you've trained your body, right? So this is major. And I can't overstate how major this is. We start with a good, strong state, and I'm going to walk you through it. And so let's just, without giving you any more explanation, I'll take questions at the end if you guys have them, but I want to make sure we have plenty of time to get through this. So it's a 5-step program, and here are the steps. And then I'll walk you through each one. So stay with me. It's prime it, claim it, activate it. Prime it, claim it, activate it, anchor it, and radiate it. Now, we've already done step 1, prime it. But if you're doing this alone, prime it is, it's a one hand on your heart chakra, one hand on your sacral chakra. Ideally, if you're driving, okay, keep your hands on the wheel. But having that somatic touch is important when you can do it. So you're going to go through that exercise, a nice breath, one of them that I've taught you, or if there's something else you prefer, that's great. But you're going to ground your body. You're priming yourself for relaxation to feel safe in your body. Okay, that's number 1. Now, number 2, we're adding on to this. Claim it. Right now, choose the state that you prefer. Sovereignty, freedom, joy, peace. I want you, ease. The list is whatever you want. I want you to say, either out loud or inside to yourself, I choose freedom right now. If you're feeling anxious, you may say, I choose freedom right now. You may say, I choose peace right now. I choose gratitude right now. I choose. I am. It's an identity statement. It's powerful. I am grateful. I am free. I am joyful. I savor and radiate this feeling with ease. Okay? Now we're actually going to do it. If you're like, wait, but I don't feel like that, that's okay. We're going to go through the rest of the steps. I promise you're going to get there. Now we're going to activate it. So you're going to inhale and recall a moment when you genuinely felt that way. See it, hear it, feel it. That is the key. If you have to go back several weeks, maybe a year or 2 ago, if you're going through a tough time and you're like, it's been a while since I felt really peaceful. Try not to overthink it. Genuinely, just let that memory of when you felt that way that you prefer to feel right now, use your memory to go, oh yeah, I remember I was at that wedding. One that I love when it's like coming fun. I was at a family wedding. We had so much fun. I'm just like, I can see it immediately on the dance floor. Like, oh, that was so fun. I love that. So you're going to activate that into your body, and now you anchor it. Okay. You're going to press, if it feels comfortable for you, press into your chest, press into your belly as that feeling grows. And for those of you who are familiar with power poses, we're going to take it one step higher, one step deeper. If those of you who are into it, I'm going to get up. If you want to peek open your eyes for just a sec, you can do, you don't have to stand up. You can do arms up as a literal Wi-Fi tower, right? Opening your chest, opening your arms. If that's available to you, I do this a ton. And it's like opening your chest, opening your arms, showing how large you are, ready to receive. This can really juice it up if that feels good to you. If you're like, yeah, no, I just want peace. I want to be a little cocooned. This is your choice. Just giving you that as an option. Now, to continuing with the anchoring in, add a small smile, and you tell yourself, this is for me. I deserve this. I receive this, and I am so grateful for it. And now radiate it. We are going to hold this for 30 seconds at least. I'm watching the time. We're going to hold it for at least 30 seconds and feel it expand as light from your chest into the room. Imagine your life force, whatever color is right for you. For me, it's rose gold. Yes, for real. You may say it's white. You may say it's rainbow. It's sparkly pink, whatever you're into. Let that feeling radiate from you. And I'm going to quit talking for about 30 seconds so you can just let that radiate. And voila, that's your broadcast. That's your Heartset. I can't overemphasize that what you are radiating from inside you is what is going to be mirrored back to you. So the more you continue to prime, you reset, you go out into the world and live in that elevated state using that kind of methodology, what is going to come back to you, the really cool thing is it becomes a virtuous cycle. You show up, you're joyful, you're peaceful. Largely, that's what gets reflected back. And then the ugly opposite is true. When you're coming from this contracted, lower level energetic state, you don't feel enough, you feel down, you don't think you're worthy. Well, that's what gets mirrored back to you. This is science. And so what we're going to do now is go a layer deeper. This started, the Wi-Fi method tuned your signal. This next piece, it's where things can get scrambled. And because you're safe in your body right now, you're in an elevated state, I want you to close, well, your eyes should be closed. You're safe. Invite an old feeling, something that's not true. You know it's not true, but somehow it's been living there in your body, rent-free for a long time. Invite it up. What have you been carrying about yourself that's just not true? Something you were programmed to believe so long ago that it started to feel like a fact. And these are some of the things we were talking about earlier. I'm not enough. I have to earn love. I can't trust myself. Don't analyze it. Just let her surface. She's been with you for a long time. Where do you feel her in your body? Is she showing up in your chest, in your arms, your throat, your head, your gut? Find her there and give her a name. Now be so curious with her and patient with her. She has something to tell you. And she's been trying to protect you for a long, long time. But guess what? You're safe now. You don't need that protection. You probably never did. But her presence within your body is so old, ancient even. And when I say ancient, passed down from generations before you, like that ancient. Okay, that's how this kind of handing down of trauma, intergenerational trauma works. She's been trying to protect a lot of people, but she doesn't need to protect you anymore. Now, either say it out loud or silently if you need to. I release her. It was never true. I don't need her protection anymore. Thank you. I let you go. And if it feels comfortable for you to give yourself a nice hug, to put your arms, arms around yourself, whatever feels good for you physically, use your body to do this release and then to give yourself that comfort, that reinforcement. And the more and more you do this kind of somatic work, this using your body as a way to anchor in safety, especially after you go through this kind of exercise, the more it will be rooted and anchored in and will displace what's not true. And one of the things that I see all the time is so often we're so in our heads and we're not in our bodies. So by continuing to use these kind of techniques to stay in our bodies, to signal to our bodies that we're safe, is how we replace that old programming. So that's the rewire. And we're right at time. I wanted to keep you guys for just a couple more quick minutes. Before we go any further, I want to ask, what came up? Where did you feel it? Let me know in the chat real quick. And I'll tell you as you guys share, I've been really surprised at times personally when doing this kind of work. I'll think, I'm going to feel it in my chest. I'm going to feel it in my stomach. How often I've felt it in my arms or my legs. It's like, wait, what? Why is that there? I don't judge it. I just go, I am noticing you there. In my arms, I need to let this go. Right. And I mean, geez, when it comes to, if your eyes open now, in case you're still in that state, right now I'm crossing my arms. How often are we standing with our arms closed? Because that keeps us safe, because we're not open. Right? We open our arms, we open our chest, we open our hearts. Our bodies hold so much power. I mean, beyond just getting us from A to B and, mobilizing, so much of our healing is taking place through our nervous system. And I'm going to just look real quick. Okay. Dane in his throat, or chest rather, excuse me. Michelle, my left neck. Yeah. In my stomach. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the more that you notice these things, let's say you get into an argument with your spouse or something goes wrong, just take that breath so that you don't overreact and then notice that. The more that you just notice, it's like when we do free face and we notice the space between our eyes, that noticing is really powerful and it compounds, right? You start to notice, you notice a little bit more, you notice a behavior, and you're so much better able to choose differently. And a lot of times, just by noticing, it's almost like you automatically choose differently because it's like, that thing that I used to do, it didn't feel good. And so by bringing it to greater awareness, it almost magically shifts itself. Okay, what else do we have here? Okay. So guys, we're going to just wrap up I'm going to give the quick 2-minute overview. For those of you who are interested in taking this further, Heartset Live starts June 3rd. We are going to do 6 sessions, plus I think 1 or 2 maybe integration sessions. And it's taking these kinds of energetic and physical practices, emotional practices, rewiring our nervous system, rewiring our belief system to honestly anchor in lasting change into our bodies, into our lives, and crucially, because this is the Love and Empowerment Summit, into our relationships. As each of us change, as each of us overcome that old conditioning that was trying to protect us, that was holding us back, the more that we do that, particularly as parents, we are so much, parents, spouses, in all those roles, but particularly as parents, because our kids are taking their cues from us. And when we're emotionally regulated, when we're able to bring ourselves back, we get upset, we recover so much more quickly. We're accountable so much more quickly. We co-regulate our children as well as our spouses, as well as our coworkers. As energetic beings, we're co-regulating all the time. The question is, are we upregulating or downregulating? So Heartset Live, as I'd mentioned yesterday, for those of you who are here, the retail rate is $19.97. Right now for this event, we've discounted it to $9.97. And for those of us who are attending the Heartset activation, we're taking $220 off. So it's $777 for the next 24 hours. You can use, $200 off. If Dane or Lily can pop that code into the chat, that would be great. I know we've got a coupon code that you guys can use. And all I can say is this is material that works. I promise you, between my own life and the innumerable people that I've worked with to achieve lasting change and healing, you can't think your way there. It really takes a holistic approach. And I always, when I'm having these kinds of discussions, I always ask people, what's the cost of inaction, right? From forfeiting the joy and chronic peace and love and all those things that you want to experience, to being stuck in your career, to having more difficult relationships, to the extreme. There's a lot of evidence, endless evidence, how not overcoming these limiting beliefs and so forth, staying stuck in these difficult emotions and trauma and so forth, lead to things like autoimmune diseases. And that is way too high a price for any of us to pay when the solution is available to each of us. And by the way, last quick thing I'm going to say, yes, there's some lifting and it's fun and it feels good. So I'm going to just, I know we're right at 10:35. I got my 30 minutes in. Before we go, anything, okay, I see a couple of quick things. Yes, C. Bloom, you will get an email reminder about June sessions, and you're welcome. Any quick questions, toss them in the chat. Otherwise, I am going to wish you guys an amazing third day of the Love and Empowerment Summit. I'm going to be back here tomorrow. I think the time is, Lily, help me out. Are we talking, I think we're talking 3 p.m. Eastern time, 1 o'clock Mountain, noon Pacific. Hopefully that's right. It's there for you. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining me. And oh, yes. Okay, we got it. 3 p.m. Eastern time, noon Pacific. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you back here tomorrow.